prophetical standpoint, but also in the mundane day-to-day type of thing, what kind of America will we see under a Trump administration?
That's a loaded question, and I have a lot to say. Trump was my favorite for Bible prophecy because under Trump, we're going to have a seismic geopolitical shift. And I'm not the only one who stated this. I was just reading an EU politician who said the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, he said similar things that I had stated in a video, and we were so in sync that I'm thinking, did he happen to see my video that I'm in sync with this EU politician? So, but the geopolitical seismic shift that's about to come is because of Donald Trump, will actually add impetus to the prophetic forecasts and get them in place a little bit quicker than had Hillary Clinton got into office. Mm-hmm. Because with Hillary, it would have been business as usual.
Right.
But Trump has the European leaders all upset and wanting to now go forward with their own army as quickly as possible, mm-hmm. their own defense. Mm-hmm. They're not trusting of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. As far as for the United States, what's happening, to my surprise, within just these last couple of days, Trump has turned coat and the wall is now a fence. And I believe that I tweeted an article from The Guardian. It was The Guardian who outlined about 9 different policy changes that Trump has already made. So while we thought we knew what it was going to look like for the U.S., I don't think we really can know because we don't know what Donald Trump is going to do next mm-hmm. in the area of the policies that he said he would enact and what he will actually end up doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing we know for sure is that 100 years of political experience has wrecked our economy, created untold wars, drained our treasury. So I'm not for political experience now. I think it's time to just and I'm going to use his term, drain the swamp, because it is a swamp. But as far as Hillary goes, she would have maintained the status quo. But that status quo wasn't just maintaining business as usual, because the business as usual was moving toward a one-payer healthcare program that wouldn't work. It was moving toward gun confiscation. It was moving toward Agenda 21. It wasn't a dormant issue there of maintaining what is. There was a direction, a specific direction that the globalists and elitists were taking the United States.
Well, business as usual. It was much easier if Hillary had gotten in to forecast, what would happen. And when I say business as usual, I'm talking about the, runaway spending, the deficit that we know is going to tank at some point, is going to really cause the decline of the U.S. So when I'm saying business as usual, I'm talking about her liberal policies. But still, the global, if you want to call them global elites, but I call them, world leaders, knew what to expect. With Donald Trump, there's going to be some serious changes. And it's exciting from the area of Bible prophecy because I get to watch and I get to report on those changes that will line with what the Bible forecasts. We're going to see a stronger European Union come out of this. But at the same time, like you pointed out, Trump has now inherited this deficit. And if he doesn't act fast to reduce it, mm-hmm. but we don't know what to expect from him because he's changing his policies.
Mm-hmm. Well, he has created a sea change. He's rewritten all the political history, the policies of how you win a political election. He's changed everything. And so there is we don't have a model of if a Trump type of person takes over the government, because we always had a Hillary type, whether it's George Bush or Bill Clinton. They're just clones. They're clones of the same elitist globalists, and they never pursue the will of the American people. It's always against what the people want. So where everybody sits around their kitchen table saying, why does the government do this? Why does the government do that? Why are grown men allowed to peek in a little girl's bathrooms? This kinds of things that will come out of any of them. But Trump there is a big unknown there, what he'll do. But he did mention that he wants to rebuild the American infrastructure to the tune of $1 trillion. That sounds like deficit spending adding. But my point of view is, because they spend money they don't have anyway. But if that puts a bunch of inner city folks to work on building projects, that's got to be a good thing, shouldn't it?
Well, building infrastructure, yes, that's always a way to spur the economy. But again, building that, you're going to be using government dollars to pay everybody. Mm-hmm. So unless, the towns and municipalities are going to also tax. So I don't know. I'm not sure about his plan. Mm-hmm. And another concern about Donald Trump is just his transition team now, another article stated, is 56%. His family members have no experience in government, and now they're part of this transition team. Mm-hmm. So I think we're a little bit on shaky ground right now with him. I'm not sure what we can expect. I'm not sure about his plans. Mm-hmm. I did like some of the things that he was saying that he was going to do, but now he's backpedaled on some of those. So I think and what I'm stating is that it's a wait and see with Donald Trump. And my concern is also, I don't just look at it from a U.S. perspective. I look at it from a global perspective. And a lot of times when you're talking about the global elites, there's a divide among the global elites because what's happening within the European Union is its own separate thing. That's not including the U.S. or U.S. politicians. Mm-hmm. It's really their own. As a matter of fact, Jean-Claude Juncker, I've tweeted a lot today that he is the European Union Commission president. He is your leading president in the EU. Mm-hmm. And he came out and he said that Trump is going to need a learning curve or is going to need to learn about the European Union and how the world works. Mm.
Well, again, I'm going to probably, it looks like I may default to the same conversation on the way I see it with you. And that is, well, what we have currently, in my mind, isn't working. The model for Europe is disintegrating. It has nothing to do with Trump's election. It was already on a path to self-destruction.
No, it's not disintegrating.
It's not?
It is
Muslims haven't taken over Paris?
World's leading market, 500 and about 8 million citizens. Mm-hmm. It is, as far as the market, it's the world's largest market. Mm-hmm. The EU, if you take all of the nations together, has the world's largest standing army. They negotiated the Lisbon Treaty, which gave it, actually it started with Maastricht. It has a currency mm-hmm. that is possibly going to take over the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve. Mm. I understand what went on in Greece, and the EU gets a lot of bad press. But the EU is forming a federal union where the United States already is a federal union.
So you don't see any other countries following the Brexit model?
Brexit actually is another area that possibly will be fulfilling Bible prophecy. And again, the European Union has spoken of going forward with a core group, which also aligns with Bible prophecy. If they go forward with this core group, and that's the picture that we see in Bible prophecy is this core of 10. That core group will solve a lot of the problems that they're having. And the word is now on the tip of my tongue, but it will solve a lot of problems that they're having legislatively. And because right now, 28 nations have to, on major decisions, they have to get it's called unanimity, where they have to get 28 nations agreeing. And they're going to revamp some of this. They keep tweaking, they keep perfecting. And the problem is the world's not paying attention. And even Jean-Claude Juncker stated that most Americans don't have a clue of what's going on in the EU. Mm-hmm. It is a baby Huey right now. And remember, baby Huey was the giant, but he was a giant. Mm-hmm. This is a giant. And when they make those final tweaks, in their.
Well, Erica, how is it I view as how am I getting to view that Europe is a freaking basket case? I mean, you have riots in Germany. You can't go down the streets of Paris now. You got Britain leaving the EU. Other countries are soon to follow. Maybe even Germany might even leave the EU for all that goes. Conservative right-wingers.
No, Germany, no. Brexit, okay. There was already talk of going forward with a two-tier. As far as the Brexit and the UK leaving, it's still got strength. It has a lot of strength. And Brexit is not killing the European Union.
Would you feel safe? Would you feel safe taking a vacation in Paris?
Well, now I'm going to go back to the migrant issue. The migrant issue is a real problem right now in the EU. And Merkel is taking a lot of flack for it. Yeah. But also, again, the migrant issue is also another area where EU leaders are saying, we have to have a common border and coast guard. Every problem that the EU is facing, the European federalists, who are the elites within the EU, the liberals within the EU, who want a federal political union. They want a world power that is calling the shots, not just,
So you don't see that you don't see the collusion between China and Russia creating their own monetary system. You're seeing the sort of the older kind of view of the 10 heads of Europe coming together and the beast coming out of the sea type of thing. Is that right?
Well, and also I've been following the evolution of the European Union for several decades plus. And at every juncture, everybody said the EU was going to fall apart. When they launched the euro, it was already doomed by the media. This was going to be a huge failure. And within a couple of years, it was the world's second reserve currency. You have every problem it's faced, Greece. But Greece is just a small economy within the EU. It doesn't have, you see, how do I explain this? The U.S. is a federal union that's already formed. The EU is beginning, and it's actually beyond the beginnings of that formation. And the EU bureaucrats are usually unknown and underestimated. When Jean-Claude Juncker stated that Trump has a lot to learn, this is a man who is one of the longest serving leaders in the world for a Democrat. He has served president of the Eurogroup.
Well, unknown and unrated would describe the Brexit movement because it was pronounced DOA before they even had the vote, like Trump's candidacy was projected by all the major networks and pontificators and talking heads that his candidacy was DOA, and they were completely wrong. So how do you know that you're not wrong on those things by not analyzing something that may be out of your view?
Well, the Brexit could possibly be the fulfillment in Daniel where it talks about the three nations that are subdued before the Antichrist or before the little horn and are plucked up by the roots. So that's another area where I'm waiting to see if that is going to be a possibility. Brexit is also something that we have to see play out. But what was interesting was when Brexit occurred, you didn't see the EU bureaucrats folding. They didn't fold and, they actually got tough. And the man that they have appointed to head the Brexit talks, which is Guy Verhofstadt, was an act of anger on their part. Nigel Farage, who actually is in the EU Parliament, and he was the one who came and campaigned for Donald Trump. Actually, he's the first EU politician to meet with Donald Trump after he was just elected.
I don't know, man, because when I look at the EU, for one thing, I ain't scared of them. I don't really see them going anywhere. But let me get back to the prophetic possibility, that Trump was designed, that he was positioned for this prophetically. Mike Pence is an out of the closet, sold out Christian. He will tell you that at every stop he made. He said, "I'm a Christian first." There are videos of him talking about Jesus and his Christianity and his experiences there and how it informs his life. There are various evangelists that have prayed for Donald Trump, and he's been surrounded by preachers. And in fact, he's had several preachers up on stage. Conversely, we nearly had Hillary and that laughing hyena looking guy, the guy with no lips, Tim Kaine, right there, he's, right there, that's demon right there, because the boy ain't got no lips, and demons don't got lips. But there was no Christian, no spiritual, no nothing. It was godless, as godless can be. They can't even utter the word prayer, and they choke in it. It's like, and then one time, Hillary was on stage and somebody began to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and they literally stopped at under God. It said one nation, indivisible. They forgot to say under God, So prophetically, it seems that, and I don't want to say God has raised them up, but it seems that they're more godly, or there's more spiritual Christianity influence in Trump than there would have been under Hillary. So what's the prophetic significance of that?
We want to see Bible prophecy fulfilled, and there's a wrong teaching in the evangelical community that if something is fulfilling Bible prophecy, it's terrible. That wasn't the view the prophet Daniel took. Daniel was speaking to Nebuchadnezzar, and he had the view that whatever fulfilled whatever God wanted, you can see that Daniel's attitude was for the fulfillment of Bible prophecy even then. And that's our view. We want to see these things happen. And so the fact that there was prayer around Trump, and Trump is the better candidate because he's going to cause this tectonic geopolitical shift where Hillary wouldn't have, it would have just gone probably different, or would have gone differently, is not a negative thing. We want to see Bible prophecy fulfilled. Yeah.
So how do you see Trump fulfilling that prophecy? Is there an American destiny involved here?
Well, we already know that the U.S. is going to decline, and most likely it's going to decline during his term. We're going to see something occur that's going to be more major. It's been a gradual decline. We're going to see the EU rise to power. And by Trump being anti-EU, which he essentially is, he's wanting to revamp NATO. It's all throughout.
I think he wants them to pay. I think he wants them to start paying over there because we've been paying their damn bills forever.
Revamp it. I mean, well, I got the impression he also wants to revamp it. He wants them to pay. He wants to really look at NATO. Right. And he's looking to restore. He's looking for relations now with Russia to have more of a partnership with Vladimir Putin, which, by the way, I advocate. I'm an advocate of that, and I believe that Putin has taken beating in the press.
So we're liable to have a genuine Russian reset. Because when Hillary hit the reset button, Russia went and invaded Ukraine. So, Ukraine was more. It was more involved. I'm going to tell you something. If I was Vladimir Putin, I would have gone into Ukraine too. And here's why. Ukraine is the second largest landmass in Europe. 45 million citizens. It's got the second largest army. It is agriculturally it's agriculturally very rich. Here you have the EU that's going and trying to form association agreements so that Ukraine can eventually become part of the EU. And with the EU talking of forming its own army and being its own world power, and actually the EU considers itself an empire, and already has acquired many of the Eastern Bloc nations. Well, that's a real concern for Russia because Ukraine is a border country for Russia, and 17% of within Crimea, speak Russian. So I would have done the same thing that Vlad did, but the other issue. Vlad, are you on a first name basis with him, Erica?
Oh, I like Vladimir Putin. I like him as a leader.
I call him Vlad the Impaler.
No, he's not that.
Well, he impaled the Ukraine. Why not? Go ahead.
If you ever read his letter to the New York Times, he actually makes a reference to the Lord. He has respect for his church within Russia. You've never seen him go in and do anything. I mean, even when the European Union, when the Eastern Bloc nations were becoming members of the EU, he didn't do anything. And he has appealed time and time again to the U.S. for a partnership. But what happens is the U.S. media is still in this Cold War mentality.
Yeah.
Our think tanks that are within the U.S. still have a Cold War mentality. And that's where the media is swayed. But I watch the man's actions. I would read what, I'm watching what he's stating, from the Kremlin. And at one point he said, I might as well be banging my head against a wall. He goes, nobody's listening to me. And I was, in the Ukraine.
Well, wasn't Hillary about ready to cause World War III with Putin?
Oh, so wasn't, Obama sent nukes over to Germany. Oh, here was another thing. We set up a puppet government. Don't ask me why. I've been very critical of it. We were like Keystone Cops. Putin knew it. He wasn't happy that we have a puppet government. But Victoria Nuland, who was part of that whole thing, and she was in the Obama administration, I don't know if you recall this in the media, but her the EU comment, which was overheard. Yeah. So not only did they have they're in there because of Russia.
I think that's one of my quotes too. But
even the Obama administration had no respect even for the European Union.
When you talk about Trump's transition team being novices, well, let's go back to Obama's transition team. Valerie Jarrett, who said, who's ever not with us, we're going to make them pay. And they've been making people pay for 8 solid years. They've been making people pay. They've been using the weaponized IRS and the DHS and the Department of Justice. They've been hammering everybody they consider political enemies. So maybe it's time that we stop getting professional transition teams like that. Remember, they had Van Jones, the czar stuff that they went through.
It's a complicated world. And the world institutions, the world organizations, the different governments, there's a lot that you would have to know just in the area of foreign policy, let alone domestic policy. So to put somebody in there who has absolutely no experience and who's coming from a world of business that's unrelated.
Well, we made it for 8 years where somebody was nothing more than a community organizer doper from Chicago bathhouses. The United States survived 8 years with that guy, so why wouldn't we?
Well, not that, Daniel. I also think that when it comes to the European Union, our own State Department and leaders, they don't even have a clue what's going on in the EU.
Well, you've talked about experience of complicated events. The United States single-handedly blew up the entire Middle East and caused a massive immigrant wave to destroy Europe. So I'm not sure that this experience of knowing world geopolitical issues is an advantage, because look what it's got us so far.
Well, that's because the people that are already in. I think that when it comes to U.S. policy, you're as good as your think tanks. And the problem with the think tanks that help formulate the policy is, as you read the different think tanks, they're just like the media. They're heavily biased. They have their views. Even this stuff with the elites. The elite is a think tank, a U.S. think tank term. And it's sometimes that's not exactly how it's run. It's maybe it's elites within the U.S., if you want to call it that, but there's also those within the EU, and each government has their own.
Did the agreement with Iran come from one of these think tanks?
Probably had some influence. I know that in the EU, that in the European Union, the think tanks, you have the think tank. Well, see, I'm almost more familiar with European Union politics than I am with U.S. politics, because that's what I've been writing on for some time. And I know that the think tanks within Europe, you have some that are more influential than others. And I'm assuming that in the U.S., it's got to be the same way. And you'll hear the same names coming up. So among the conservatives in the United States, there's more think tanks that are popular than others. And those think tanks, they do. The leaders do read this stuff.
And for the first time ever of any politician, and now I guess we can consider Donald Trump a politician. Obviously, he's in a political office. But obviously, he's a novice and a businessman. But for the first time ever since Johnson, when they first instituted, and I don't know if it's a law or an executive order or what the hell it is, but that 501c3 churches cannot talk about political events unless they lose their tax exempt status. He is the only one that has said that law has got to go. Isn't that a good thing?
That is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. That would not have happened under Hillary. And speaking of that, as far as Christians goes, Pennsylvania, this came in from Pennsylvania, it says, why do you want to see Bible prophecy fulfilled if it means Christians will be beheaded? And I think what they're saying is that prophetically, I think it is written maybe in Revelation that Christians will be beheaded for their testimony. Do you see that as part of a prophecy?
Well, unfortunately, in the tribulation is all about martyrdom. I mean, every living Christian during that time is going to be martyred. But why do you want to see Bible prophecy fulfilled? Look at Earth right now. Look at the events that are happening. Look at the violence. This has to come to an end, and we'd just as soon be with Christ. But unfortunately, for it to get there, it's going to be some very painful events.
Why do you think why do you think Obama or Hillary hasn't come out and demanded that the riots stop out west and in Oregon and in other places?
Well, it seems that Hillary's been very quiet ever since she's lost the election.
Well, it's because her meds wore off and she hasn't been able to get down to the pharmacist?
Very quiet. Nobody's seen her.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody said they saw her out on a trail. I don't know what came across my Facebook feed.
But there was another article that wondered if that was even true.
That was one of her clones, is what you're saying.
And by the way, her protesters have done some unbelievable things on my Facebook page, which are also on my Facebook. I couldn't believe the story of the woman that defecated and publicly defecated. And
so that was one rude video there. I guess I was looking at it from a train wreck, but I couldn't say, is there something dropping out of there or not? I guess there was. You can hardly see. It was nasty, though, man. You know she was a Hillary supporter, and Hillary's probably getting turned on by looking at that.
But the riots are still going on. And actually, there were riots today in Berlin, which is shocking. That's never happened before.
Yeah, riots in Berlin. Now, you're talking about your beloved European Union, Erica Gray?
My beloved. I just want to see Bible prophecy be fulfilled and us get raptured out of here.
Okay. So when do you see the rapture happening?
I don't see it too far. I just wrote another book, Decoding 666, the number of the beast, and it was an expose on technology and a status report, exactly where we're at. And it's unbelievable that even for the mark of the beast and the image of the beast, the technologies are now all in place. I mean, there's so much that is in place. I would say definitely within this decade, it's not far. And look at the escalating rates of violence. I mean, even these riots, this is unprecedented. We're having riots for everything. And the migrants,
isn't that because,
what they're doing over in Europe.
Isn't that because we haven't had somebody in office that doesn't see an advantage for these riots to be taking place? Obviously, the Democrats, specifically Obama and Hillary, get an advantage out of these riots. There's something that they get, and that's why they're allowing them, whether it's dividing and conquering the country or whatever it is. There's some political advantage that's working in their favor, and they like it, and that's why they have to come out against it. You put a law and order guy in there and stops that, brings out the National Guard and throws these freaks in jail, then maybe perhaps there wouldn't be so many riots.
You have a point about the National Guard, but it seems to be, it's a worldwide phenomenon. This isn't just happening in the United States. And then we have riots over, police, shooting people, the police. I mean, look at the stories about the police. I mean, I write on the End Times, the signs of the times. It's just unbelievable, the things that are occurring.
I know this is not within your prophetical research, but is that Looney Tune Miley Cyrus going to leave the country with Leah Dunham? Are these freaks going to leave the country and leave us to hell alone?
I liked, how about as soon as Donald Trump got elected that the immigration website in Canada crashed because so many people were looking? I don't know, but that would be a wonderful thing. There was a video of her crying when Hillary lost. She was really upset. Yeah, so maybe she might be one that will leave.
I saw that, and maybe they take that nasty-looking Whoopi Goldberg out of here, too. I think she changed her mind. But nobody understands that Madonna was promising some oral satisfaction for everyone who voted for Hillary, but now she's reneging. So And there's a whole bunch of men ready in line for that. All right, another question. It says, when I think you really already answered this question, it said, will Donald Trump reduce tensions between Russia and the U.S.? And why was it that Hillary kept saying that Trump had a connection to Russia? What was that nasty comment all about?
Because she was trying to play the Russia card and make everybody believe that Russia is our big bad enemy. Actually, I favor U.S.-Russia relations. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be
stronger
a benefit
together
to the U.S. And I believe it also falls in line with Bible prophecy. Again, I wrote a blog about Jeremiah 6:22, which I believe is a verse talking about Armageddon. And it talks about the king of the north and a great nation from the farthest sides of the earth going to the area of Israel. And we know that prior to the Battle of Armageddon, there's some conflicts, and one of them is going to involve the king of the north, news of the king of the north, and from the east, trouble the Antichrist, and he goes into many countries at that point. So that battle, it looks as if we are in some kind of a partnership with Russia. Those seeds may very well be being sown by Donald Trump. And I interviewed James Rickards, who's an economist, and he's a best-selling New York Times author. He was a hedge fund manager. He actually came out a while ago and also stated the same thing, that he felt economically it would be good for the U.S. and Russia because we'd have another market. I mean, right now there's sanctions and just all kinds of things. But I see it as a positive for the U.S. to develop those relations with Vladimir Putin. And at some point, you've got to read his letter to the New York Times a while ago when he appealed to the American people. And at the end, he actually mentioned Lord, and I was shocked. And if you really look at it, but what does Hillary do? She was playing the Russia card so that America would think we have this really big enemy that we need this protection from. Erica, when the reality is we've been acting as the aggressor with Russia.
I got a question.
We've been the aggressor.
Erica, is it true that the Saudis are wanting a full refund from all their donations to the Clinton Foundation now that Hillary lost? Are they wanting a full refund?
I think that really, and her aide, whose family funds the Muslim Brotherhood, and I forget her name.
Huma?
It begins
Huma Abedin?
Yes, I tweeted about that as well. I think that really hurt Hillary. At the end of the
James
day,
Comey ain't going to make it.
All about a buck.
James Comey's gone, isn't he?
I'm not sure.
I mean, Trump will not have him on, don't you think? Don't you think he's going to replace him?
Not sure.
Oh, well, I'm going to use a prophetic utterance on that one right there and say, yeah, he's going to get rid of that freak. Here's a question from Philip in Georgia. How does Turkey play into the Bible prophecy with Trump as president? Turkey's always out there messing things up.
Yeah, it is. It's looking to become a member of the EU. It's not been able to because Erdogan is his own dictator. He's really clamping down on the media and journalists, and he's not allowing freedom of speech right now. I'm not sure what Trump exactly will do with Turkey. That's another.
Let me ask you this. This is a prophetic question too, as well. Probably the deepest one I'll ask tonight. When the Obamas leave the White House, are they going to steal everything that's not hammered down like the Clintons did when they left? They're going to back a big U-Haul truck up there and steal everything?
We'll see Turkey in the in the Ezekiel 38
Wait a minute, that's
prophecy.
not the answer.
Okay, just wanted to finish that.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Will they take everything that's not nailed down?
Right, they steal it, yeah.
Possibly.
And who knows? Now, people have said that what Obama really wants to be is the head of the UN, kind of like a world thing. You think he's going to do that?
I don't know what he's going to do, and I didn't read that.
Okay. What about they're mulling around whether or not Obama will do a preemptive pardon for Hillary in the interest of healing the nation? Do you think that's probably going to happen? Even Donald Trump has been saying he likes her. It doesn't look like that's an issue anymore.
Trump, ever since the phone call, his promise to have her arrested, and it looks like he's backed down on that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Donald Trump believes in Jesus as his Savior?
I don't know. I've read people say that he's like a baby Christian. I don't know. I know that you had brought up earlier about Hillary. Yes, I believe if Hillary was elected, it would not have been good for Christians within the United States.
Right.
I believe that, but Trump is obviously much better choice for Christians within the United States.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean, do you think that God has sort of in one way pardoned the U.S., given us one more chance, and I don't know what chance we failed at to get an Obama type of freak in there, but with the rise of Trump, and specifically with Mike Pence in there, who's next in line, and probably in the next 4 years, if Trump doesn't get 8 years, then if he bows out, and then Mike Pence is obviously a great choice for another president. So has God said, or do you think he's given us another chance of some sort, or he stayed his hand to say your destruction is not going to come just yet?
No, the destruction's inevitable because what we see in Bible prophecy.
Let's talk doomgasm here.
It's inevitable. It's a power that is so great. The prophet Daniel said it was exceeding. I mean, it was dreadful, unbelievably strong at its pinnacle of power. Mm-hmm. And so obviously the U.S. has to decline if that's going to happen. And it's a matter of just a simple deduction. And I think the deficit is so high right now. How long can we keep functioning? And Trump has inherited a mess.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking forever. Actually, I don't think that number means anything. Because if it did, we would already be done. I mean, how do you have $21 trillion in debt and still be a viable country? It was prophesied if we ever got to $1 trillion, we'd be done. Here we're at 21. Those numbers could just keep on rising, but you can still go to Walmart and buy something made in China.
It's going to catch up with us at some point. One of the things also is in about the year, at the start of about 2020, the EU is going to issue its own bonds akin to U.S. Treasuries, mm-hmm. and they've been doing things, a lot of things that don't make the major news because people, frankly, don't care about the European Union, so they don't know that mm-hmm. the EU was doing all kinds of changes to give. What they did when they started the euro was they formed this currency, but it didn't have the proper institutions, and they learned that with Greece. Mm-hmm. So now they're giving it the proper teeth. I don't know exactly how to call it.
Well, see, Obama tried to wreck the economy by putting massive debt. And like Trump said, those foreign wars, we could have rebuilt the entire United States 3 times over for the amount we spent in there. So those numbers really just appear as digits in a computer somewhere. So how do they really affect everybody?
How do they affect? I mean, there's only so much time we can keep, and it's the quantitative easing right now. It is a false recovery. It's not a real recovery. I mean, they're just printing more money. That there's only so much time that they can do that. I mean, look at all this time they've not raised the rates. What is that telling you? Mm-hmm. There's not the recovery that. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If there was the recovery, they would have raised those rates.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and Japan did the same thing, and then Japan's economy crashed. And then what happens is you have this, inflation. It's going to happen. I mean, that is going to happen mm-hmm. at some point. We just don't know. And what I was stating about the EU forming its own bonds, that would really strengthen the euro. And then there's now another, EU bonds versus U.S. bonds. We would have competition on the world market. That may topple the U.S. dollar. That move could very well topple the U.S. dollar.
Erica Gray of Prophecy Talk. Who's the best potential candidate for the Antichrist that you see?
I'm not going to say. That's not my place.
You can't answer that?
No.
Okay.
There's a few people right now within the EU who could be possibilities mm-hmm. who are. But I would never state that because...
Well, see, some had speculated that it was actually Obama because the Bible says that the Antichrist will not have a desire for women, and since Michelle Obama is not really a woman, that could possibly fall into that category. But now he's getting ready to fade on out. He's going to go to that Barry bathhouse in the sky somewhere. So he's just going to go out. Who knows what he's going to do? He's going to make millions, just like Hillary did, I'm sure. So who's next in line?
It's going to be I write that it's going to be somebody coming out of the EU.
And why is
And
that?
it's
Why
not
does it
going to
have
be
to
the
be?
King of Spain. It's not going
Yeah.
to be the Pope. It's going to be somebody who's already within the framework, the institutional
It's
framework.
not going to be Bono, is it?
Not going to be Bono.
Well,
It wasn't Obama. I think
I know
everybody
it.
knows that now.
Well, see,
Some
there you
people
go.
I think, are they already asking if it's Donald Trump, if he's the
Yeah,
Antichrist? I think
I'm
that
sure
may
they
have already
have.
gone out
I'm sure
there.
they already have. But see, all these are things that people say that really just never really come to pass. And a lot of people, they have their studies to prove this person or that person or this or that. But inevitably, it seems like life just kind of goes on. And we may be right there again. We're just life's going to go on, but maybe in a different direction. But
Daniel, so many signs are in place. It's not even funny.
okay,
You
what are they?
have the third temple, the plans, the utensils. That is all ready to go. So much the technology to make the technology to make the mark for that whole thing is already in place. And in my report, I talk about how the technology will actually allow the Antichrist to mimic God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Whoa. And by doing that, it's blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. And if you take the mark of the beast, you commit the unforgivable sin of blasphemy against the Holy Spirit.
Somebody told me that there's a quantum computer that is built that is so fast and so smart that it actually has what they call a heartbeat. There's some kind of noise.
Yes, it actually has a heartbeat. And Eric Ladinsky, who is the maker or the head of the company, or Ladinitsky, if I pronounce his name correctly, said it was like the altar to an alien god. And what is fascinating about the quantum computers is that there's this thing called tunneling, where it actually goes into another dimension. And the Bible tells us that the demons are in the idols. So some of this, they don't know where it's getting this, where it's able to be in two places at the same time and just come up with all kinds of information, which is going to be ideal for the Antichrist police state, because they'll be able to find out everything, anything instantly. And
it's a quantum computer, as a matter of fact. It's interesting. We're talking about quantum computing. But, this sort of has a heartbeat. And what about this tunneling? Tell me a little bit more about that. What is that now?
Well, the tunneling they believe in the, multi dimensions.
The multiverse.
And we know that there's the, spiritual dimension. Mm-hmm. So, and the Bible tells us that demons are in the idols. So they believe, so if the demons are in the idols, and we know that the Antichrist is going to use a technology, well, this thing could be, set up by Satan himself, giving it this power of this incredible knowledge. But yeah, it actually goes into another dimension. Another very interesting thing about quantum computers is that they have to operate in an extremely cold environment, colder than any place on earth, which is also got a very demonic feel, because demons are evil spirits are like very, very ice cold. Wow. So it's also interesting that these things have to operate in this. They say it's the coldest place on the planet for these things to function.
Wow, I never would have thought that you would be talking about demons on this program, talking about the geopolitical events in the planet. But this quantum computer, though,
even the final world empire is the seed of Satan, set up by Satan.
So then, how do we know that the computer itself is not the Antichrist?
The computer is because the prophet Daniel tells us that the Antichrist will honor this strange God, this God of forces, and will cause this God to rule over many. Well, that's technology, because the technology boosts him and allows him to do his diabolical aims, which is to mimic God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And he blasphemes the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which is the sin of desolation that the prophet Daniel talked about. This blasphemy of the Holy Spirit that Christians have been unsure about. What is it? Could we have committed it? What was Jesus referring? That sin will be committed when you take the mark of the beast, because that is a blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. That technology is going to go inside of you. The Antichrist will be able to put his thoughts in you. The brain technology and the brain project, by the way, not only funded by the U.S., but also funded heavily by the European Union, this human brain project. I mean, they're going to the technology and where it's going is absolutely frightening.
So, if the computer is not the Antichrist, is this quantum computer, is it smart enough to manipulate matter? Will it have that kind of power to where we would see it as a miracle, but it would really be some kind of alien or demonic technology that's just reemerging?
Well, the matter piece is nanotechnology. Mm-hmm. The nanotechnology, that's another thing with nanotechnology. They are saying you'll walk into a room and be able to recreate it at the atomic level. So if you want a chair, you'll be able to recreate a chair at the atomic level. And what we're seeing is technology having this ability to actually recreate miracles.
Right. So
I speculate in my report that where we feel that the false prophet is going to be a religious leader, he may also very well be a scientist, because you get into like Ray Kurzweil and some of these individuals, and what they're talking about, recreating another race, man merging with machines, machines having consciousness and a soul. Mm-hmm. They're going to eradicate death, and people will live forever because you're going to have an avatar. I mean, this stuff is wild, but it sounds like religion.
Is this where it says, if it were possible, even a very elect will be deceived? Is this quantum computer? Yes. Enough to fool Christians? And then I'm thinking that is
not just quantum. It's the quantum computing. It's also nanotechnology. It's going to holograms. With a hologram, after Michael Jackson died, they were able to bring what looked like him speaking and dancing on stage. With a hologram, mm-hmm. somebody can come to a stage and be halfway across the world, and you'll see them standing there talking. And mm-hmm. the verse in the Bible where it talks about, or in Revelation, with fire coming down from heaven, well, they can create that with a hologram.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? What do you think the mark of the beast is?
The mark of the beast is going to be, well, first of all, it's the image and mark of the beast. It's going to be some sort of a quantum computer, and it's going to be either a avatar, like a robotic clone of the Antichrist that is going to be given, the Bible tells us that God allows the false prophet to breathe life into this thing. So that is a deception that's actually allowed by God himself. Mm-hmm. And then people are going to believe in this thing, and he's going to set it up in the Jewish temple. And I believe he's also going to behead Christians in the temple as a sacrifice. It's going to be the ultimate blasphemy.
What's the time frame of this?
Possibly within a decade. Mm-hmm. Within either the next or the administrations of the U.S. and Europe, or the administration after. Because everything's in place. And we're also seeing the signs in society. Everything just is so out of control, and it's everywhere you look.
Mm-hmm. Well, there does seem to be a lot of chaos, but the chaos, though, it seems that, there were people who were paid to go and create violence at Trump rallies. There are eyewitnesses that say some of these riots, people have been bussed in. So it doesn't seem like it's chaos in and of itself. It seems that somebody, probably like a George Soros type or a Valerie Jarrett or Hugh Aberdeen, somebody is, or the Saudis even, is trying to foment chaos. Doesn't seem like it's a demonic thing. It seems like somebody's trying to just do that.
But that is demonic. And it just seems that there's just this evil. Mm-hmm. Even look at ISIS. Mm-hmm. And and the radicals, radical mm-hmm. Islam.
Mm-hmm. I read today that Trump is going to ask his generals to come up with a plan within the first 30 days how to totally eliminate ISIS. You think that's going to happen? That the United States will do it? Because it's clear that Obama was trying to arm them and give them funds, so he really wasn't trying to destroy them.
Wasn't that a shocker? Well, I hope that Trump will do. I hope that's what I mean. Trump is inheriting a huge mess.
All right. Well, we're near the end of the broadcast. Erica Gray of Prophecy Talk. Give us something about your website or anything like that. What you got?
Oh, yeah. You got to go to my website, www.erikagrey.com. Go to my YouTube channel, Prophecy Talk, and subscribe to me on Prophecy Talk. Follow me on Twitter. A lot of times I tweet articles that are pertinent to Bible, end time Bible prophecy. I also have a brief podcast called Bible Prophecy Minutes where I'll do quick commentaries on a lot of different headlines. So be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter and check out my website.
Okay. All right.
And if you want more information, and my Decoding Mark of the Beast book, you can either purchase it or you can go to my YouTube channel. There's about 62 videos in a playlist, and you can either view the videos or you can go to the website and you can go per article.
Okay. Wow. There's a lot of stuff there for people to enjoy. All right, Erica, great prophecy talk. Can we have you on again sometime?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show tonight, Erica.
Okay, Daniel. Bye-bye.
Bye.